Hello, in this tutorial I will explain to you how to use your own land use data in the WaterWorld policy support system. To use this feature you need to have a hyper user or a higher user level account, and I will also assume that you know how to use the system, know how to run a baseline, as that is explained in other videos. So to get started, I've already done that. I've run a baseline for Madagascar. As you can see here, if I refresh this, we're in Madagascar, we're in the baseline. And there are two ways we can use the feature of using your own land use data. We can either change the data for the baseline simulation, so change the baseline data, and therefore you can start your run with your own land use data, or we can do it as a policy exercise. So the baseline would be using WaterWorld data, and your policy exercise would be your alternative land use data. I'm first going to explain to you how you can change the baseline run with your own land use data, and for that you will still need to run a baseline first. But we can then change the data going into the system. So I've run the baseline, and in order to start using our own land use data we need to upload it to the system first. So I'm going to go to step 2, prepare data, and that will open up my data view and preparation tab. And we need to upload our own data through define regions of interest. So I'm going to click on the define regions of interest link. That opens up another page, and here we have options to upload points of interest, zones of interests, area of interests, and watersheds of points. And these are explained in other videos. And for this feature we will want to upload our map as an area of interest. So areas of interest are categorical maps that define a series of classes represented by different integer numbers. So for instance, land use data. So to upload our map we need to go to new AOIs by uploading map. So I'm going to click on this, and here we see the map upload page. So obviously we need to prepare our data for upload to the system. So I've already done this, and there is another video explaining how you can prepare your data for upload. But it will have to have these characteristics. So the number of columns, the number of rows, the cell size has to be exactly like this. And so if you have prepared your data, then we can upload it here. We need to give it a name, so we call it aois.zip. I'm going to select the zip file that I've prepared previously, aois.zip, open that, and the system will upload it. There we go, and we can see that its upload's been successful. And now we click on check and submit. And there we go. And we can now have a look at the data we've just uploaded. So I'm going to click on the display GeoBrowse map icon, and that should show me my land use map. So I've uploaded a land use map from GLC 2000, a categorical land use map, and for Madagascar it has these different values, different classes, and so you will need to know what these values represent. So in my case I know the numbers 1 to 7 are tree cover, different types of tree cover, 9 to 13 are herbaceous, 26 is cities, and 27 are water bodies. So I can close this now. So we've successfully uploaded our AOIs map, and now to upload that data, or to use that data in the WaterWorld system, we can click on list baseline workspace data. And there's an option here, redefine land use and cover according to your own map. So if I click on this, on the plus minus next to it, we now get to the upload your own data page. So here you can choose which land use classification or data you will want to use. So if I click on the drop down, I can now see the map that I've uploaded as the AOI's map. If I click on that, it will open it up. So we keep this on the side. And now what I need to do is to complete this upload table. So these are the different land use types within WaterWorld. And the codes here relate to the codes in your uploaded land use map. And the values are we can set or we can leave them to the default value, which means that WaterWorld will use the values found within the land use code that you specify here. So let's just go through an example here so you can see how it works. So in my land use map, I know that class 13 is pasture, so I can go in here in codes used. Well, it's a mix of pasture and cropland. So I go here, I type in 13, and these values for pasture and cropland have to add up to 100. So I can specify class 13 here as well, but then I have to set this to percentages that add up to 100. So in this case, my class 13 is a mixed class of pasture and cropland with about 75% of pasture and 25% of cropland. And the other classes that I want to set are urban. So I know class 26 is urban. This is Boolean value, so it's 0, 1. So in this case 26 is 1. And then my forest or tree cover are the values 0, 1 up to 7. And my grassland values are the same, but with some added classes as well. So that means I will need to specify percentages, values, that add up to 100 over these three functional types. So I have class 0 in here, I have class 0 in here, and between these two they have to add up to 100%. So for example, my class 0 is 75% forest and 25% grassland, and therefore adds up to 100. And so I can do the same for class 1, 80% forest and say 15% grassland, and that leaves another 5% bare. So I can use class 1 and set that to 5%. And so you can use these values for all three classes, but you have to make sure they add up to 100%. So in this case, I'll just fill this in for the other values. And these are just examples. Obviously it takes a little bit of thinking on what these classes represent, but you have to make sure they always add up to 100. Now obviously in my grassland I have more classes, because I have 0 to 7, but also 9, 11, 12 and 13. And so I'm going to give these the value of 100, so they're only defined as grassland. So we need to make sure that the number of codes here is the same as the number of values. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 codes here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that seems to work. And so once we've put in all the codes and values that we want to use, we can then click on check and submit, and then the system will start building this scenario, ensuring consistency. And then it says completed, now check the land use and cover maps below. And so if I click on here, I will just get the list of workspace data, similar to the list you would get if I just prepare data for a baseline. And so it doesn't highlight which maps have changed, but we know that we made changes to croplands. So we could have a look at the cropland map. But it doesn't give you a change map from the baseline. So you will have to know from your own land use map which ones are highlighted cropland, and then you can compare those. And similarly, other maps that have changed are cover bare ground, herb ground and tree cover, and urban areas as well. So once you've checked these maps and they make sense, you can just close this because the workspace data is ready, and we can close this and we can go to step 3, start simulation. So that's one way of uploading your own land use map, by using your own codes and giving your own values. Another way is to let the system decide on the values. So you can use your own land use class codes, but you can let the system decide on what values to put in. So if I open this again, and we'll go to our AOI's map, select our AOI's map, move this to the side. I could also, for instance, I know my class 0 is forest. I can also define this as 0 and leave this as a hyphen. And I can do the same for grasslands and the same for bare. And if I leave these to a hyphen and check and submit, then the system will look at where are the class 0, so it will use this as a mask, and it will define, based on the values found on the built-in data, what values to put in for forest, grassland and bare soil. So if I click on check and submit, then this again will build your scenario. And now obviously this is very useful if you have a map of forest cover, for instance, and you want to use your own forest cover data, and so you have 1 or 2 classes that are forest cover, but you don't want to specify the percentages within those covers. You can let the system decide on the percentages based on the data that is already within the system. So that's 2 ways of uploading your own land use data to the system for a baseline simulation, but we can also upload it through a policy exercise. So say you've run a baseline already using the WaterWorld data, the built-in data, and you want to use a scenario where you use your own land use data. You go to step 4, policy exercises, and we click on land use and cover chains. And at the bottom here we find defined from a land use or cover classification. Open these, you see that you have the upload table, which is exactly the same as in the baseline data change, but in this case we need to give our scenario a name, because obviously we're not uploading it to the baseline, we're uploading it as a scenario simulation. So it could be land use change, for instance, And again, we can select our AOI's map and we can start filling in the values for our different land cover classes. Just setting up the same scenario we did for the baseline, and check and submit, and that should build your scenario. So once you've set up your own land use data as a scenario, you can then compare your baseline with scenario data by clicking on show baseline and scenario. So this is similar to all the other scenario options, and it will show you those maps that have changed, and you can inspect them before you start your run.